Howdy folks, welcome to sunny California. Not so much, but welcome. The 2022 Chevrolet Trailblazer. This is the RS model. Now recently we had the active model and Tommy took that off-road and it actually behaved quite well off-road. But we didn't really get a chance to play with one of these on the road, and that's what we're going to do today. Also, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, this is an RS, not an active. What's the difference? Well, here's an interesting note. They're both priced exactly the same. So if you get the active, you get smaller wheels, beefier tires, off-roading, a little bit of a lift. That one's 8 inches, this one's about 7.5 inches off the ground. And you get a slightly different front end, which has a more aggressive approach angle. Not like this, which is a little bit more car-like. And you get some skid plates underneath. This, you get the RS little badge, yeah. And then you get some blacked out stuff, and you get these wheels and tires, and that's about it. Yeah, so in other words, badging, wheels, tires, package. But with that being said, this is one of the top of the line vehicles that they build, the Trailblazer that is. And in my book, it is actually better than the Chevy Blazer that I drove. Why? It's more maneuverable, way more affordable, gets better mileage, has excellent room for people who are actually using it as a utility vehicle, and it's kind of fun. Behold the mighty 1.3 liter, 3-cylinder, turbocharged 3-cylinder. Wow. It puts out 155 horsepower and 174 pound-feet of torque, and this is actually the upgraded version. They actually have another turbocharged 3-cylinder that puts out less horsepower. That comes with the front-wheel drive versions, the base model of these vehicles. So this one, it's not the fastest vehicle on the planet. Big surprise, does get decent mileage. I've deliberately been driving it in all-wheel drive mode. Believe it or not, you can actually select that, which is one of the things that makes this unique amongst other crossovers it competes with. You can select 2-wheel drive, which is front-wheel drive, or all-wheel drive. It actually works pretty good. Now, if you decide to get the front-wheel drive version of either of the vehicles, or any of the Trailblazers, you will be getting a continuously variable transmission. But if you decide to go with all-wheel drive like this one, all-wheel drive means you get a 9-speed automatic transmission. If you decide to get the RS, you are getting one of the top-of-the-line vehicles in their toolkit. As such, you are getting a couple of extra goodies. So you do get a lot of this blacked out look here, little RS badge, which looks so cool. And you're getting these 18-inch wheels. And on those 18-inch wheels are Hankook tires, and those are made in Korea. Oh, and so is the car. Quality is pretty good. Interior design is pretty much on par for what you have in the Blazer, but not as fancy. I will say that the Blazer is a lot nicer in terms of interior amenities, but it's also a lot more expensive. The rest of the vehicle, I do think, and many of my contemporaries agree with me, that it is really well designed. It's cool looking. I especially like it in the active trim where you can get the white roof, which I think looks pretty cool. As it sits like this, it does look like a baby Blazer. Now in the back, the design is a little bit different. You ready guys? Because you get blacked out Chevy badging. You know what that means. Yeah, you're hardcore. And then of course you get blacked out badging here as well to let everybody know, once again, you're really hardcore. And then you go here. Dual exhaust. Well, they're not as big as they kind of look on the outside, because if you peer in here, you'll see the tiny exhaust pipe inside that large surround. But at least, it's a real exhaust port and not a fake one. Thank you, Volkswagen. Business end of the car. Now this is where getting the RS package really does pay off, because you get the 8-inch, not 7-inch screen. You get really nice stitching. I think they did a great job. I really like the contrasting little metal things going on over here. They still managed to add little touches here and there. It says RS over there, once again, making you look hardcore. Wireless over there, which is pretty cool. So let's talk about the seat comfort. It actually is pretty comfortable. I like the fact, now this is a little bit longer and wider than other small crossovers that I've been in, which really works well with my large American ass. Very good stuff. Now, we're going to sit behind me and see if I fit. There are a lot of crossovers that when I have the seat all the way back, and I do in this case, I don't fit very well in the back seat. But I wanted to show you something. Normally, getting my feet under the seat is a difficult thing, but not in this case. There's a lot of space underneath, which helps. There's also just enough space for my legs, and I do have just enough headroom to where my head's not completely compressed into the ceiling, and because I slouch, it's not that big of a deal. However, if I lean my head back, I do feel the roof coming in just a little bit. That's not too bad considering how small this is. Remember, this is a tiny crossover. The way they designed this vehicle, it still has over 25 cubic feet of space behind the second row. And when you fold everything down, over 45 cubic feet of space. Now that is pretty cool. You know, the best part about this is that if you have a ladder that's over 6 feet, it will fit here, no problem. Granted, if somebody else wants to ride with you, they'll have to deal with walking. But nonetheless, I really wish everybody would do this. It's just such a smart thing to do with utility. This vehicle is one of the easiest crossovers I've driven to park. In fact, the only one I can think of that is easier to park is its baby brother, which is the Chevy Trax. Now you may be wondering, okay, the Chevy Trax, it's smaller than this vehicle, yet the base model of this vehicle is less expensive. Yes. Why? Because General Motors is confused. It's the only answer I've got. The Chevy Trax is a decent little runabout. This is superior in every way. This one, and I'm going to show you now, has one little issue. So let's say I'm rolling at about 35 miles per hour. Now I'm going to put my foot down. Ready? There it goes. Power's coming. There's the power. It's not a question of turbo lag. I mean, it spools up really quickly. Little tiny turbo. The problem is that off the line from a red light, which is what this thing does really well, no problems. Great for commuting and getting through traffic. But when you're on the road and you're punching it to get around something, you may feel a little bit of a lag. It takes time for the power to kick in. And really, that's one of my main complaints. I'm averaging right now 24.7 mpg. Why? Well, as I said before, I left this thing in all-wheel drive pretty much the entire time I've been driving it all week. Yeah. But if you leave it in two-wheel drive and if you drive it conservatively, you can get around 30 miles per gallon, which is pretty good. And you don't have to put premium in it despite having a turbocharged engine. That's really good too. So you may have noticed, I don't hate it. I really think that out of all the crossovers you can get in this class, which is an unusual class, this one makes a ton of sense, especially if you live in a city and you have to move people around and you need to get something that has all-wheel drive and yet gets pretty decent mileage. You could do a lot worse. I don't like using buy it, lease it, rent it, or forget it because there's a lot of gray area between them, right? But in this case, I would give this a buy it if you get the base model, maybe a rent it. Oh, and by the way, they start at around 22, but that comes with the CVT and front wheel drive. If you get the LT version of this, with a couple little goodies here and there, not a whole lot, and all-wheel drive, and you get the automatic transmission, it'll be between, say, 26 and 28. And I think for this, that's a bargain. This one, as equipped, comes in just over $31,000. Once again, it may seem steep, but you get a lot for the money. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.